Hey, how's it going? I just want to step in here real quick before we get the show started, just to let you know we lost a member of our community in the glass world. Tucker Lure, his name was, went by Frankenglass, and Rebecca Cooper, a good friend of his, reached out to Torch Talk in the community to see if anybody would be willing to help with donations and what have you to help his family out in their loss, which is pretty tragic. She sent me an email, and I wanted to read this message to you guys to see if there's any way you can help, whether it's sending them pendants, dabbers, any kind of little glass thing that they can use for an auction or raffles. But here's what she sent me. I wanted just to read this to you briefly before we get the show started. So Rebecca Cooper, her name is, says, "Please help. As many as you know, we lost a kind, generous, and genuine soul this month when our dear friend and family member, Tucker Allura, passed on. Tucker was always quick to help anyone in need and would gladly give the shirt off his back. Now his family needs help to recover from the long and grueling ordeal they have just gone through. We are planning a celebration of life for Tucker on December 9th and would like to include a raffle and silent auction to help out his family. Here is where you come in. We are currently seeking donations of items or gift certificates to be raffled off at this event. These donations can be art, handmade items, glass pieces, gift certificates for community businesses, bottles of liquor, or anything else that you feel could be worth raffling off. Please help us to contact friends, family, and community businesses to collect donations. You can contact me directly at," and then she has her number, which I'll put her information, contact, not the number, but her message or Facebook basically link into the show notes for you. But she says, or you can PM me here on Facebook to schedule a time for me to pick up donations or to have them sent to her as well. Everyone has been at a loss trying to cope with the situation, and here's a way that each of you can pitch in and show Tucker's family that we are all here to support them in any way that we can. Together we can make a difference. Thank you in advance for sharing and coming together to make this event a success." So contact her. Again, her name is Rebecca Cooper. She is in the Torch Talk group, and you can contact her in there. Or again, I'll just leave her Facebook link in the show notes so you can contact her there. And again, anything you can do, whether it's just anything small, large, what have you. It's always tragic when we lose a member of our community, whether it's to a car accident or suicide or sickness. I don't know Tucker's full background and history, but I have gone and done some research on his work. He had a tattoo shop and glass art gallery together, and he was an overall rounded artist and a big help in our communities, sold supplies and what have you to his local artists. And it was always about giving wealth of knowledge. I found a couple forums where people had left comments about his help and how tremendously grateful they were for his insights. So any way you can help out Tucker and his family would be fantastic. And again, I'll have this link in the show notes. And sorry to start off the show with some somber news, but I just think it's relevant for right now as December 9th is about a month away. So that being said, enjoy the show. This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show. You're listening to the Wise Guy Radio Show. This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by American Helix. The American Helix is a revolutionary new concept in smoking technology. Designed and manufactured by American glassblowers, this pipe is light years ahead of its time. Based on Bernoulli's principle, the shape of the pipe along with an innovative intake system creates a Venturi effect through precision microholes in the chamber, which results in a slower burn that conserves tobacco and gives a smooth, refreshing smoking experience, making the American Helix the smoothest hitting pipe on the market. For further info or to locate their products, you can find them online at AmericanHelix.com. That's AmericanHelix.com. This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Zen Glass Studios. Located in the heart of St. Petersburg, Florida, Zen Glass has a wide range of offerings to choose from. Their menu includes one-on-one or group classes in their hot shop or flameworking studio, create your own wine glass, and so much more.
If you're a traveling artist, they even have a space to rent that you can temporarily call home. With over 50 years of combined experience, Zen Glass can help you fine-tune your techniques, whether you're a novice or advanced glass artist. For their calendar of events, including info about their Third Thursday studio jams, you can contact Zen at zenglass.com. That's zenglass.com.
Artist Sully Reynolds, he's been behind the torch for 4 years now and was an apprentice of Chaka Glass, and we're going to be bringing him on the show here soon too as well. And we got a lot of talk about his whole process and of opportunity, and why when it comes to opportunities that you're given, whether it's something that you want or not, you don't necessarily have to follow through completely, but at least walk through that door and figure some shit out. And then while you're in it, be honest with yourself, the person giving you the opportunity, and if it's something that you don't like, then let them know so that way you're not wasting their time anymore. But if it's something that you do like, you grab that bull by the horns, give it all the love you have, and fucking run with it. And that's what he's done. He was given an opportunity to work under Chaka and went from there to just where he's at now. He's doing some really awesome work. His shit's super clean. He gives us some concepts and talks about his early on in the business side of things, how he approaches shops. He even tells us his little intro when he calls them at their stores. So because he does a lot of cold calling as well, which is something that's unique amongst the days of social media. So something to think about, and just taking some notes, because this is an episode full of value bombs, especially for a glass artist that's only been doing it for 4 years. He definitely has a lot of sense and what's going on, not only in the business side of things, but just in work ethic and relationships. And it's overall good conversation. I'm glad he hit me up, and he actually reached out to me on Instagram to come on the show. I was a fan of the show, and he's like, hey dude, I would love to come on. And I've had a lot of artists recently doing that, which I appreciate. I can't even thank those who reach out to me enough that want to come on the show, because for me it just reinforces that this platform that we have for this community is ripe and real, and helping people out and influencing artists, young and old, and the OGs and the newbies. And it's pretty badass. I definitely am honored and humbled, and Sully is a good example of someone that reached out, and now he's on the show. And that being said, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, I'm always open to bring you on. I'm not just going to bring you on because you're a glassblower, but I am very particular about who I do bring on the show, especially like with my sponsors. I mean, everything. So, but that being said, if you think you have a story you'd like to share, whether it's a glass story, an art story, journey, whatever, I'm up for any kind of art on the show too. So hit me up. You can hit me up on my Instagram. My personal Instagram is actually, hit me up on the podcast one, which is wiseguy_radio, WYZGUY_radio. I'll have the link to that as well as my personal Instagram in the show notes. You can also send me an email, wiseguymedia@gmail.com, WYZGUYmedia@gmail.com, and just say you want to be on the show. Put it in the topic and subject and whatever, and I'll definitely reach back out to you. I do all my emails and answer everybody's calls and texts and messages and stuff, so always love to talk to you. So that being said, speaking of our sponsors, don't forget that right now, Mountain Glass, for the entire month of November 2017, they have their Chinese color and clear at 50% off. Just put in the coupon code CHINESE, CHINESE, at checkout. And for all my beautiful soft glass nerds out there, they have their Creations is Messy sale, 40% off. Just put in the coupon code MESSY at checkout. And not sure if you have seen the new Chinese color that's come out. It's their new Chinese milky tubing. I saw some pieces that were made over at Champs with this stuff, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm pretty impressed with it. It's affordable, especially right now. It's 50% off. I'm pretty sure that's included in the sale. And I saw some hand pipes that were made with the purple and the pink, and the thinner that you can blow the glass out or even water it down, say with some clear, you can get some really nice transparencies out of this color that just it's hard to explain, but it kind of reminds me of like slime, how slime is opaque and transparent in some areas depending on your flame properties. This glass is very similar. I saw some spoons where like the very face of, say, like the head of the spoon was, because it was blown out into a ball, it was a little thinner there. It wasn't too thin, but it was thin enough to where you could see a transparency or a translucent effect of the glass. Really pretty. It kind of reminded me like a pink slime or something of that nature. And the purpley blue is the same exact thing. So get your hands on some of that shit if you're interested. It's 50% off. I know people freak out about using Chinese materials, but it is what it is. It isn't all garbage. And just saying that because I use it myself. So yeah, so there you go about Mountain Glass. They had their 15th anniversary party just recently as well, celebrating Halloween and the fact that they've been around for 15 years, giving us the best customer service in our industry. So anything you need, any questions, comments, concerns, what have you, go to mountainglass.com. And they will hook your ass up. And if you're a newbie and you've never blown glass before, or you want to get a starter kit, or you have a studio that you're opening and you need kits to set up for your apprentices and students, just go in there and you can buy a kit and just use coupon code WISEGUY, WYZGUY, and I believe it's a 10% discount you get on the sale itself. So it's something new out there. And also right now, the Flow Magazine, they're taking submissions for their upcoming spring issue. It says the spring 2018 issue of the Flow Magazine will explore the wonders of nature. Everything from the tiniest microbes, marine animals, and wildlife to global environments, including geological formations, plants and trees, and bodies of water large and small. Gallery entries, general interest stories, and health and safety or technical articles are welcomed for consideration as well. Tutorial submissions for beads, sculpturals, marbles, paperweights, vessels, mixed media, and all skill levels from beginner to immediate to advanced will be accepted for consideration. If you'd like to put a piece in for this episode, for this issue, for their spring 2018 episode issue, if I can speak here, my God almighty. You must have any submission deadline is December 1st, 2017. And I'll have all the links and show notes stuff and whatever in the show notes telling you all about it. But yeah, so they're having theirs just... If you have some art, if you're a nature artist or you want to push yourself and get some art published in a magazine like The Flow, get your stuff in and made and sent to them before December 1st, 2017. The episode or the issue will be released on March 14th, 2018. So definitely look forward to that. And they also have right now their fall issue came out. And so, again, that being said, if you have not yet subscribed to the Flow Magazine, it is chock full of amazing photography, tutorials, inspirations, anything you can think of that you need as a glass artist to read and to look at and to learn. Just go to theflowmagazine.com and subscribe. And if you put in the code WISEGUY in the checkout there, you'll get 10% off a subscription for them. And I'm looking forward to getting my fall one in here pretty soon so I can flip through it and become inspired again. As the last issue with our marbles did, I started making marbles, which I haven't done in years. It was freaking awesome. So I was trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, yeah. I was going to do a recap on Champs Orlando to this intro, but I don't want to ramble on about that. I'm going to do a whole different episode, which will be the next episode. It will be 180. That's going to come out will be my recap on Champs, but also the idea of planning your calendar around either trade shows and or vacation, so then that way you can then see what kind of work you need to make to be able to get you to that point in time. Whether you need to have a whole bunch of glass to go sell at a trade show, have a whole bunch of glass you need to make to go sell and then go on vacation, all that kind of stuff, as well as having play money, because when you're not at the shop, you're not making money, that kind of stuff. So we're going to do a whole episode talking about, just because we're coming up to the end of the year and, the conversations of goal setting and all that bullshit starts coming up here for 2018 already. I can't fucking believe it. I don't know about you, but time is going by too fast. Oh my goodness gracious. So yeah, that being said, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. Again, as always, if you have not yet subscribed to our podcast, please do so at iTunes. Just look up Wise Guy Radio, and it'll pop right up. Any kind of podcast catcher you have, including iHeartRadio, you can find the show on there and just subscribe to it. It helps us out. And if you want to go to iTunes or whatever podcast catcher you have and leave a review, it lets them know that you are listening to this show. It then puts this show up in the ranks in the different lists of all the podcasts out there and exposes our industry and our community and our world of amazing, talented artists and collectors and shop owners. And this is amazing family of an industry we have to the rest of the world that has no idea what the fuck is going on in glass. Because I don't know about you, but I hear every day that glass is a dying art, and I call bullshit every single time. So there you go. Love you so much. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy this episode 179 with Sully Reynolds. Again, you can find him on Instagram at Sully Reynolds, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Happy melting. Bye-bye. What's up, Sully? Welcome to the show.
What's going on, man? Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, likewise. Good to have you on. And It's good to, hey, John, here after reaching out, and makes me feel good that you reached out and getting artists to reach out to me to get you on the show, or any artist in general to come on the show. It really makes me feel like this platform is making a difference out there in our community, and not only for the artists and the collectors, but also for those that have no idea what the fuck it is we do, and to be exposed to this amazing medium that we're all playing with every day. So definitely helps me reinforce that what I'm doing is a positive thing out there. All this hard work is paying off.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm a long-time listener of the show. I'm a really big fan, and I'm happy to be on here.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's an honor to have you on, dude. And before we get all sidetracked and shit, if you want to get us started by telling us your superhero origin story and where you were introduced to the Flame.
Yeah, sure. So I've been blowing glass for about 4 years now, and I was going through a rough time in life about 4 years ago, and I got invited to a party, and after reluctantly going, I met a kid with a case of glass. I asked him how much lessons were. He told me $50 an hour, and I said, cool. And so I hounded him until he gave me lessons. The moment I got on the Flame, I knew that's exactly what I wanted in life, and I've continued to pursue it. I was blowing glass for about 2 months, and I got fired from my job. So I decided I wasn't getting another one, and I was going to be a glass blower.
Hell yeah! What were you doing? What were you doing job-wise?
I was a debt collector.
Okay. Well, it's probably a good job to get out of.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I mean, the money was great. I enjoyed the conversation with people because I have an argumentative side, but, you know, it's fun to call people on their bullshit when they're like, oh, I don't owe this money. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm talking to you on the phone number that is assigned to it, so yeah, you do, because it was cell phone debt.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Hell yeah, man. So you started...
Yeah, so I decided I was going to become a glass blower. After about 2 more months, I started talking with Chaka glass, and excuse me, and after a few hour conversation with him, I explained to him my situation, and he said I could use someone to do production for me. I said, cool, I could use a job. We talked for a little while longer, and we worked out basically the bare minimum I needed to survive, and I told him everything after that, just, you know, put towards educating me. He's like, cool, I can do that. And I started working with him. I worked with him for about 1.5 years, and then he decided he was going to go on the road and do, you know, collabs with everyone. He's like, all right, bud, here you go. This is what you want. So you got your, you know, you're going to take over my bench. You're going to start ordering materials, paying rent, doing everything you need to do. You got this. And so there it was. And I just started hustling production. And a few months later, he called me and was like, hey, I have a project I'm working on at Marcel's. I could use a hand. I'll fly you out to Oregon. And I was like, all right, awesome.
Fuck yeah.
So I went out to, and I spent a month in Oregon at Marcel's, and then started a road trip. That was a good time. I got to work with a bunch of people, or work next to a bunch of big names and everything. It was amazing.
Yeah, what a introduction to the culture and the community. It's that quickly. It's pretty badass.
I can't thank Christian enough for what he did for me. It's unbelievable because I didn't really know him. He took a chance, and it worked out, thankfully, for the both of us.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and it's, you know, it's interesting too because Chaka's he's an established guy, and I know a lot of established artists, including myself, with the way the apprenticeship quote unquote program has been going over the last decade. You know, you show somebody something for the first 2 weeks, and they're the best glass blower on the earth, and then they say, "Fuck you, I'm out of here, doing my own thing." So it's hard to find people that are dedicated to actually be a true apprentice. So it seems like you knew what the fuck you were doing.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because like when I was on the road with him, I talked to a few people, and a lot of people said, you know, I'm surprised you even talk to him still. Like most apprentices do exactly what you said, fuck off and buy. And then, like, not only do you talk to him, like, you guys are super close and you still work for him. And I'm like, yep, you know, like, I'm eternally grateful for him. He's played, like I said, the biggest role in this for me.
Yeah, he's a badass too, in terms of his work and quality of work.
Yeah, his whole new body of work is unreal and super, super awesome guy.
So with his apprenticeship, what were some of the first things you were doing for him? Well, I guess I should step back even further when you first started. So you were paying somebody to, I mean, if you want to mention who it was, or it doesn't really matter, but, you know, what was like when you were first paying hourly per se, what were some of the things that you were learning or being taught for this money that you were paying?
Well, his name is Kyle DeSword. He goes by Cloudier Glass.
Okay.
Also super thankful for him because he got me onto the flame. And, well, it was more of just like, you know, here's how you work glass. Let's play with it for a little bit. And then once I did that, he's like, all right, what do you want to make? So me being me said, I want to make a pipe. And so I made my first pipe, and he was standing behind me and basically catching me when I needed him to catch me. And
yeah. So
my first pipe is, you know, halfway decent because it was a half made by me.
Yeah, kind of tandem pipe making.
Yeah, exactly. But it was mostly just, it would be just kind of more of what do you want to make? And so then when I got working with Christian, it was more of a rigid setup. It was, you know, the first 2 weeks I did nothing but dot implosions. And then from there I made oneies. From the oneies, I started doing spoons. From the spoons, I did the honeycomb spoons. And basically just, you know, laying down hobnails on the front of the spoon.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started pulling Sherlocks and doing the single pulls. And then and then some bubblers and so on and so forth. And then after about bubblers. And throughout that whole time, actually, he was teaching me different techniques. So I was taking in a lot of information, but he also allowed me quite a bit of time to sit down and figure it out before I moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, dude, that's badass though. I mean, I can see in your work that you definitely have somebody that was behind you to give you a good foundation. You know?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was awesome too because I was always super into glass when I was a kid and back in the early 2000s. And so that was the glass that inspired me to want to be a glass blower. So that was the work that in my work, you can kind of see where the old school influence comes from. So when Christian saw that I was super into fume work, he handed me silver and said, here you go, and let me just start doing all the things he had taught me in silver fume to figure that out. Once I got the silver fume down, he handed me my first piece of gold. And thus started the massive fume work that has been my career.
Yeah, hell yeah. So for him, like, did you actually do his production? Because I know you were saying earlier, kind of, you know, the goal was in a sense was just help him do production work. So were you actually like doing some of his version stuff?
When I first started out, I was just making like production spoons and everything, and we eventually started joking it, saying I was Chaka's flower department because he was focused more on the oil end of it.
Right,
so,
right.
All the pieces I made were his pieces, and then when they got sold, he'd give me a cut of it. But other than that, it was, you know, my weekly check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was how.
Well, it's a great way to learn too, man. Like there's nothing wrong with making somebody else's work, you know, production wise.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it really helps you fine tune everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was really awesome too because he was happy that I was able to work full time for him because it makes it a lot easier to teach someone when they're there 40 hours a week at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to bring him on the show for sure. So I haven't reached out to him yet, but he's definitely somebody I want to reach out to and get on the show.
Yeah, dude, he has a really awesome story. He's a really great guy. I think that it would be really cool to have him on here too.
Yeah, and I've always enjoyed his work too. The whole penguins and the ice and the blocks and everything else. It's one of those signature things that, there's a couple people out there making penguins, but he's really taken this whole philosophy of cold weather and, put it into all of his stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really cool to see the whole evolution of the entire process. I remember the ice cube pendant, and then when we were out at Marcel's was when we were doing millie pull, like some of the earlier snowflake millie pulls and everything that he did. We mixed a pot of color for him and everything, and that was the very early days of what become now the Glacier Tech and the Blizzard Tech.
Hell yeah, it's badass. That's for sure.
Yeah,
so did you do all the? Did you guys go around and do like the festivals and stuff with them too, and the trade shows and stuff?
Yeah, we did Chalice, and then we were at the DFO, but Chalice was mostly the only show that we did.
Cool. And he has to do any other trade shows like Champs or Age or any of those guys?
He does do all the trade. Well, he does a lot of trade shows.
Right. But you weren't there.
No, I wasn't there. My option was I could go to Vegas for Age, or I could go to Marcel's for a month. We know which one of those you'd choose.
Yeah, I'd be at Marcel's all day.
Yeah, I was. It was a really awesome experience. That was just a mind-blowing month that it took me quite a while to really take all of it in.
Yeah, I could only imagine. So when you started doing your transition to your own work, you're taking over his bench and paying rent and stuff, like, did you find it to be a struggle at first? Like, you seem like at the point to be at that with him, you're going to have outlets already established in a sense, potentially, for his work. Did you just kind of like just jump into the same shops and stuff to sell your stuff as well as you were kind of fine-tuning your lines of work?
Well, he said, I want these designs to still be on the market, so take them over and use them to situate yourself and, then discover your own body of work and get from there.
Dude, that's a fucking blessing and a half. Holy shit.
Yeah. Like I said, Christian really, really is responsible for why I am where I am. And so I had that, and then I was in Joy Street Studios in Boston, and this dude, Matt Jacob, was the guy who owned the studios that we were renting. And so he helped me out a lot too in my early days, introducing me to shops. He'd bring me with him on runs and be like, this is Glassblower, here's some of his work. And so he helped me get into some other shops as well as the shops that I had with Christian. And then I also just did the cold calling, something I was comfortable with, having cold called people and said, hey, you owe me money.
Yeah, much better. Because you're actually getting paid instead of the fucking business you're working for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice when you enjoy what you're doing. It makes it a lot easier to not have much money going in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so then at one point in time, did you find like you started to take off on your own shit, like that? Because you're saying you're like you enjoyed the silver fume work and stuff. So
well, it was. I had started, like I said, I had started taking over some of his designs and turning them into fume designs. And then it was just, and then that was like the first couple months when I went on the road with him. I was helping him mix color and prep ice cubes and helping him with a bunch of his prep work. So I didn't really have much time to work on my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing that was just a whole knowledge dump for me. So it wasn't really till I got back from the road trip that I really had a thought of what it was I wanted to be doing. And that's where I've been now. I've just kind of been doing a lot of fume line work, exploring different shapes, messing around with a lot of rigs, making Sherlocks, having fun with things, doing just trying to see what I can do with fume tech.
Yeah, well, I definitely dig this, like your style, because you have like like you said, you're learned from somewhat of an OG, so you have this OG kind of mentality in terms of pattern and design and work, and it's fun seeing like the line work and wrap and rake stuff. Like I love doing wrap and rake fume work. There's nothing like it, It's like it's out there, but it's such a clean, simple thing to do that is so effective in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's with the wrapping rakes, I've been doing them for so long that they just like, that's basically the tech I have absolutely nailed every time. It's going to look consistent. And I so many times people are just like, damn, dude, those wrapping rakes are gorgeous. And it's great because it's kind of an underappreciated technique.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. That was one of the things with JD when he was kind of coming onto the scene and doing collabs with some of the cats out there and getting to be known for his clean fucking wrapping rakes. And at that point in time, I was doing like I've been doing wrapping rakes, for 20 years almost now. And my brother kept saying, "Dude, do wrapping rakes, do wrapping rakes." And then like 3 days after he kept haunting me about it, he started showing me JD's work coming out and his elbow collabs he was doing and a bunch of other stuff, and it was just like this fresh fucking line work or wrapping rake stuff, just using some butterscotch or whatever and some clear rod. It's so effective, and it's so affordable.
It's so crazy.
Yeah,
and then it's awesome too because if you just like reverse it, it's just a whole new beautiful pattern that you don't see. Gonzo kills the reverse wrapping rake.
Yeah, I love that shit. Yeah, I like doing like that feather up and down wrapping rake type effect, and then reversing that shit, making reversal balls out of it and stuff. It just looks like get some nice terminations going. And for me, like I love line work and stuff, but line work to me is just it was one of those things that were imported, and it's like when you start seeing all this crap that's coming in from China, it's like, okay, for me personally, it makes me change directions and see what's coming in from the imported, and okay, what can I make that's not import that I can still sell at a affordable price that I'm still like China killers in a sense, quote unquote, but it's not being produced. And like line work, don't get me wrong, man, I love the line work out there. There's some amazing guys and gals that are doing line work, but it's like it's so saturated in the industry where wrapping rakes is just such an underappreciated thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the wrapping rake is the main design in most of my production. So it's something that I do regularly. I try to make sure to incorporate it into my nicer pieces because it's such a clean and consistent thing, and you can do so much with it. And if you like do some line work and then some wrap and rake and combos and shit, you can start to do some really unique stuff with both of those techniques.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just the fact too, what I like about wrapping rakes is that it gives you a chance to play with color and really find the different properties that you get from color that's been raked and is protected from the flame compared to what's exposed to the flame and all the like Blue Moon, for instance. It's a great color for wrapping rake.
Yeah.
Or dark multicolor is another one I love to do wrapping rakes with because of just the variety of color you get out of that shit. Just you can do 5 rakes. I love all that shit.
All the silver-based colors do some crazy stuff with wrapping rake. One of my favorite color combinations was caramel and red for a wrapping rake. It just provided this really cool effect.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, dude. And that and caramel and turbo cobalt was another one I like to use a lot too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I have a oneie from back in the day when I was making them for Christian. And it's basically my flower piece, and it's cobalt and caramel wrapping rake.
Yeah,
and I absolutely love the color combo.
Yeah, it's fun. When you do your wrapping rakes too, do you try to when you're wrapping your color, do you try to do your second color so it goes in between the first color? You know what I mean? So it's like a secondary spiral going down, or do you try to just freestyle it and let it overlap or whatever? Like, are you specific with your pattern laydown?
Back when I was doing a lot of the color stuff, I was just more trying to cover the piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And now that I've kind of really figured out my personal, how I enjoy doing it, I just do a nice even wrap across up a tube, and then I'll just rake through it and then leave half rake, half wrap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that look a lot. I've done some mini tubes over the years that were like that. And a lot of times I would do that too because when you add that extra glass to your surface, you have more shit to blend in. And if you have just a basic color wrap on your neck, say on a rig or something like that, it's way easier to blend that shit in and then give it a nice shape than it is to have to really blend it in, and then hopefully you get a consistent pull because the wraps might be different or the rake might be loaded off a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of those things, when the more you do it, the better off the more consistent it becomes. So having, again, done it so many times. I've got I figured out how to pull it, and sometimes it kind of has like a groove to it, and I find a lot of shops and people are like, "Ooh, I really like this," because it just, like you said, it didn't melt quite evenly. But you know, when that happens, most shops absolutely love it because it's something different.
Yeah, I think they like it too because it doesn't have like that factory production look, you know?
Yeah. It helps signify that it's handmade,
Yeah.
and by some kid in a studio in a basement.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, it's weird, man, because like I know a lot of us out there are more or less perfectionists, and for me, I like my shit to look like it's been made by a machine. You know what I mean? Like it has the quality of it.
I agree to an extent. Like I'm a perfectionist, but I always nitpick my work. But I find everyone that I point out imperfections to, they're like, "Oh, that's like my favorite part about it."
Exactly.
Like, all right, cool. So I'm kind of, I beat myself up about it, but I don't really get too on myself unless it's like some of the nicer stuff about those imperfections, because I find that everyone loves them.
Yeah, and I think when it's like the rigs and the nicer Sherlocks and everything, then I really try to be on myself about it, because this is my art and this is what I want it to look like. And if it doesn't look like that, then I'm throwing it out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Well, because like I know, like when I did ceramics back in the day, but like my transition for my art was I did clay for, it was mostly through school, but I still loved it and transitioned into my glass. But like for instance, for like my ceramics, I'd make a plate or some shit, and then I would grab it by the edge of the plate while it was still wet, and just with my thumb and just pull it a little bit, just so it wasn't perfectly round, and it also had my thumbprint in it, you know. And when I got into the glass, I was thinking like, okay, I can maybe somehow do the same thing. But then, like, say, for instance, for a jar, you can't do that to the lip because it's got to be able to seal properly. Otherwise it's going to it's going to leak air. So I was always trying to find ways to fuck my shit up a little bit so it wasn't so perfect looking. But then the more I got into my glass, the more technical I got, the more I was like, my shit's got to be clean.
Yeah, once you start doing like heavy plumbing and shit and all that crazy stuff, it needs to be really on point, or else you're going to have a really rough time doing it.
Mm-hmm. But it seems, for you, for instance, it seems like you're fortunate to be able to get into this line and this transition to go from apprenticeship, or really paying for classes, and then an apprenticeship, and then taking over a line of work, and then turn that into your line of work with your voice, through that piece. So it's cool to see your transition, because you're learning from, I guess in a sense, the way you should learn, per se. Doing repetition and stuff, but then now that you found your voice, you're learning what you like and what you don't like, compared to saying, okay, this is Chaka's work and this is what he likes. I don't necessarily like it. Maybe I do like it, but now you have your own thing. So it's cool to see, dude. I mean, especially in 4 years, and that, I think, part of, again, with the show, and then with like the Dustin Reveres and the different things out there, the access to information, it's really allowing artists not to cut corners per se, but to save a lot of time and headache and like having to fuck up a bunch of stuff to figure something out. Now you guys only have to fuck up a couple things, and you have someone there to be like, okay, just do this differently now. Not everybody has that access, but it's out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had it more of having just, I've always worked in like a studio with other people, so I've always been able to be like, hey, what the hell am I doing? And that they've always given me a hand, and it definitely makes things a lot easier. But I strongly believe in making something 1,000 times, and then you can actually do something. You know what I mean? It's get it down, figure it out, and then go on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My one of my old student, he's still kind of my apprentice, but we're not working together anymore now that I've moved. And I saw him post the other day on Facebook about him hating to pull points in prep work, and I'm like, welcome to the club, dude. It's the only way that you're gonna get any better is pulling points and coil potting, and
it's funny because I remember when I was taking lessons, I was taught how to just handle up, and then when I moved over to working with Christian was like, you're gonna pull points and then you're gonna work off them. So you can figure out how to pull points properly, and then what, when you're working off them, you can figure out what you need to do. And so it was just like, oh my God. And then, I was pulling points every day. That was how I started my day. Great way to start your day.
Yeah, I agree.
Later on down the road, I come to realize that it gets you in the groove, it gets you going, it gets your hands warmed up. The amount that I learned from pulling points is unbelievable. And it's, it seems like just a silly task, but you really learn how glass moves and how to pull it evenly, how to pull it on center and do everything in that nature with it.
Yeah, it's and that's why I preach it, dude, because it's like, I'm all about throwing a blowpipe on a piece, don't get me wrong, but for me, it's like if you're going to heat up a piece of tubing to attach a blowpipe and then rip it off a tube to then pop a hole in the tubing and put another blow, keep that process of attaching blowpipes. For me, for one, it's a waste of blowpipe, but also it's just, if you're heating that glass up to a point where you can remove it from the tubing, why not just pull a fucking point? And then you can attach a blowpipe to it down the road, just to reverse your axis or whatever you need for strength or whatever, there's ways about it. But there are so many little nuances in pulling points, from like understanding your heat base, understanding consistent rotation, because once you have your point pulled, that diameter of that rod is different than the diameter of the tubing, so you have to understand how one hand has to rotate different, speed than the other to keep your rotations evenly. Which then leads into doing line work down the road, because there's nothing worse than trying to stretch out a piece of tubing that's line work, and you go to stretch it out, and it's all wonky because you can't control your fucking glass, And then,
yeah, I know. Go ahead.
I'll say, but like when I finish my points off, like my technique, when I go to pull it off the tube itself, I'll actually turn it into like a perpendicular angle with itself, and actually wrap some of the tubing that's coming off around the the mouthpiece of the end of the point, the blowpipe itself. And then I'll just knock it off with my tweezers or stick it in some water and just knock it off and then polish it. But that process of wrapping the glass around the mouthpiece is the same technique you do when you're spinning color around a tube. And you don't realize it until you start spinning some color, and it's like, well, fuck, I've done that 10,000 times pulling points. So now I kind of understand, and that's how I teach the points, at least. And it's just, again, it's it's so many nuances.
For sure. And back to the coil potting. I absolutely love coil potting. I do the like old school Colorado. I don't know the proper cane terminology for it, but I just find that coil potting everything is just such a meditative and relaxing thing to do. It's like, oh, I've got a lot of shit on my mind. I guess I'm just going to coil pot today. Just,
Yeah, totally.
It's so nice, and I mean, I always have headphones in my ears when I'm working, so I just completely tune out. And then your hands know what to do when it comes to a coil pot after you've done it, 1,000 times. And so you can just really tune out and just figure out what the hell you need to figure out and get yourself going elsewhere while still being very productive.
Yeah, I agree, man. And the way you're doing yours, like making like a cane, basically like a Latticino cane, and then coiling that up, It's I like doing that stuff too, because it teaches you also like viscosity of color. You may have a rod that's got blue cobalt on one side and then ruby on the other, or some pomegranate, and their consistencies are so different. And coil potting them, making cane with them, and they don't always want to pull evenly. So it really teaches you the process of understanding what colors work well together, what ones don't, how to do this, how to do that. And then also like
it also.
Oh, go on.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna say it also just teaches you like the basic a very basic idea of how to work each particular color, like a color like slime that's really stiff. Mm-hmm. When you're coil potting it, you're going to figure out how it actually works and, what heat's required to do what you need to do with it quickly. And then so when you're working it later on down the road, you've got an idea and it's going to be a stiff color.
Yeah, man.
So
like
you're putting it next.
Slime's a great example of it too.
Yeah. So if you're putting it next to something like a white, then you might have a lot of issues trying to get those two to work together.
Yeah, and especially too, like with slime, if you want to make, let's say, like with the original slime, if you want to make a section of tubing that you're coil potting to make it all opaque or all transparent, you have to have the right flame setting. Otherwise, you're going to see the seam. Like every time you have like a layer of your coil, you're going to see that kind of milky slime in between each segment as you build it up.
Like when you coil pot amber purple or double amber purple, it has just the clear rings around it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Yeah, and then you get into like tube encasement and stuff with certain colors that, you know, or do a coil pot around a piece of tubing, even, you know, whichever you want to go about, you know, technique wise. But it's there's just so much involved in it. So you know, just understanding the heat alone. I love coil potting color. I love coil potting cane. Like I used to challenge myself. I would make rods up, and I would try to, as I would coil pot the section, I would try to line the color up so it looked like it was this checkerboard pattern it would make on the tube. You know what I'm talking about. And like when Momka,
I know exactly what.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So, Momka, you know, they have like their multiple color rods. So I was like fucking around with some of their sample packs, so like the Marley, for instance, you know, and trying to coil pot that pattern on there and try to make these perfect like lines of color. You know, like the black, it would make like a black stripe and then a green stripe and a red stripe. If you could completely coil pot it, the same heat, the same thickness, the same time, and you know that kind of shit. It's not fucking easy to do, and it's amazing that just those little simple techniques go so far with understanding this medium.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I do the same thing when I do my coil pot spoons and coil pot work in general. I'll start off with a 20-millimeter blank and then just coil that up, you know, paint the color on or put the color on there and coil it up. And I've always been so determined to be able to get each line perfectly straight. So, you know, straight line of color, straight line of clear. And, you know, there's no matter how close you come to it, it's not going to happen.
No, it's tricky. I've even gotten to a point where it looked like the stripes were kind of like waving and like almost beginning to wrap themselves around the tube, you know, in a pattern. And you can almost go back and heat the whole thing up and just give it a little bit of a twist and try to line that shit up like after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's tricky.
It's crazy. I mean, I enjoy you know, all the new school stuff, but like I said earlier, I've always gonna have a place in my heart for the old school, and like so all these techniques that aren't as readily used, it's so fun to explore them and be able to enjoy doing it. And you know, I don't see too many people doing like cane style coil pots, and so it's like here's a way for me to do what I want to do and kind of still stand out a little bit. And so it's been really nice to be able to figure out how to take the old school and bring it into the new school and do everything in such a way that I can still also stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree, dude, 100%. And we had champs in Orlando last weekend, and I got to go on Sunday just to go walk around and talk to people. And, you know, there was like the artist area, and they all had their headies and their production out and stuff. And most of the guys all sold out, which was killer. But like the bigger tables that were more production companies, and the American-made production companies, it was nice to see. Like Ohio Valley Glass, I think they go by. I'm going to be bringing them on, Aaron, who owns the place, on the show too. And his production work is all very traditional old school stuff, which I love to see. Like some really nice old school, thick fucking inside outs, wrap and rake spoons, you know, wrap and rake spoons that had reversals in the heads, like just really simple stuff that, like you're saying, you don't really see it anymore. It's everybody's so focused on wanting to make a fucking rig or make a clear piece with a little bit of color or make these full color pieces. And it's like, I do old school shit just because I think the market has a demand for it and that demand is not being filled. It's just like the flowers. Like, I don't know many people making flower. I mean, I know a lot of people do, but that make flower stuff anymore. And the demand is still out there. I'm an old school. I love my flowers.
I hustle flower pipes all day long. That's my bread and butter. I tell so many people, I'm like, the $15 pipe is what feeds me. Mm-hmm. The $15 pipe is what allows me to ask what I want for the pieces that I actually make, for me as opposed to production. And because of that, I don't ever have to undercut myself on, a piece of my artwork because I need to make rent or whatever it may be. I have, I roll with like 5 or 6 cases of glass at least to head shop. So I make sure to have a solid inventory with me so that when I want to make an art piece, I can, and I can sit on it and get what I want for it.
Yeah, and that's smart, dude. That is super smart because nothing worse than someone hurting up for some money and they sell something that, and again, the value of it is based on who's willing to pay the money for it. But that being said, it's still nice to be able to not have to stress about, I got to sell this glass because I got to pay a bill.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's huge. It's like I have all the respect in the world for these guys that do trade shows that stock up for 6 months, but they do it smartly because they know in 6 months they're going to have a trade show and then they're going to restock and get orders again and just keep that ball rolling. But it's really just getting the ball rolling is what you got to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I find, when I cold call head shops and everything, I get the general, yeah, we'll take a look. We can't promise you anything. Totally understandable. I expect that from any new head shop that I call, unless they're familiar with me or my work. Then sometimes, then they'll be like, yeah, sure. But then I walk in, and so many times, the owner will be like, oh my God, you do production? Yeah, we have money. You know what I mean? Like,
that's nice.
Yeah, and if you only walk in there with $200+ pieces, then you're not, a bigger name. Then I find it's gonna be harder to sell anything because everyone wants a $30 pipe, a $25 pipe. Everyone's willing to spend under $50 on something.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yep.
So if you can just hustle those, because those are going to sell so much faster most of the time anyways. So it allows you to have a consistent amount of money.
Yeah, it's smart, dude. It's the way to go. And and the way the industry seems to be going right now, like a lot of these shops that have the $200 wholesale pieces that they purchased that are selling, they're trying to sell for $400 and $500. They're not moving like they used to move, and the kids that are buying the pieces either go directly to the artist or they just don't have the cash anymore. And like I brought Chris Dickey on talking about the whole changes in the industry right now, and with the spice money being gone, that these shop owners really not. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still owners out there that are doing it right, but there's still some that are still getting lost in the weeds and they can't afford to buy stuff because they've got a whole case with $10,000 pieces in it that they can't fucking move. It's just, yep. They're like a rock and a hard place, which sucks. And don't get me wrong, it's fun to go in those shops and see that shit, but I know the shop owners are like, dude, fucking buy my stuff so we can buy some more other glass in here.
Well, I mean, for in most instances, for any one person trying to spend $1,000, there's 100 people willing to spend 25. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and if where I jumped in, full time from the get go, and then was on my own, it was the production was what I knew was going to feed me because I already had an establishment shop and I knew what sold, and that was what allowed me to situate myself. And because that works well, I continue to do it. I know that I don't have to worry because my work will sell itself, and it's at a cheap enough price that every head shop will buy a good chunk of it if they can.
Yeah, it's smart. So when you were first pricing your stuff, like did Christian help you price things out, or was it just you doing research in the market?
It was Christian basically was, had, because they were his old designs, mm-hmm. He knew his price point. So he just was like, all right, well, you're new, so they're not going to be worth this much, so they're going to be worth this much. And he just established the price points for me.
Huh, interesting.
And as they got nicer, the prices increased, and then they got to his price point, and I've just basically, some of them I've moved up a little bit more. Some of them I've dropped down a little bit, depending on, if it's a matter of $5 or selling, more of them, I'm going to sell more of them. Mm-hmm. So I'll drop the price down a little bit, and just kind of figured out where the market is on these pieces, and just left it at that.
Yeah, that's smart, man. That's why I did that whole show on like the pricing and selling your work, and like do like a recon mission. If you're new to an area or don't know the shops, just go walk in there. Don't tell them you're a pipe maker, and just check out their prices and do a little math and figure
absolutely.
out what their wholesale is going to be on pieces, because then you can really fine tune your prices. And I'm not saying it to undersell the shops, like to go in there and sell your stuff for the same prices. Like don't go in there and say, okay, I'm gonna sell my shit for $10 cheaper because they're gonna buy it all. Go in there and sell it for the same price, and they're still gonna buy it from you. Sell it
for the same price if it's the same quality.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I was going to ask you about that too. I think is what's cool with Christian is like, I hear stories a lot of these bigger name artists who have apprentices that are making their production for them, and then they're selling the production for the same price that they would normally sell as an artist. Whether it's worth that or not, it's like bringing up the whole Chihuly conversation of him not blowing glass anymore. Whether he even signs his pieces anymore, type of thing, but the fact that Christian had you learn his work, and then he sold his work that you're making for a price based on the quality instead of being a price based on the fact that I made this, not that you made it, but this is my brand. This is Chaka's glass, and you see that out there in the industry. And it's like you see these artists that obviously didn't make the stuff that they're selling and it looks like shit. And they're still saying that's their work.
With Christian didn't. I mean, Christian's very adamant about what his name gets attached to. So Christian's not gonna say this is my body of work if it's not Christian's quality.
Yeah, that's good.
And I you know what I mean. I fully understand and respect that.
Well, that's how it should be.
It's allowed me to have that same mentality when I start making a piece. I'll offer it for one price, and then as it gets better, if it's moving consistently enough, then the price will go up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I find that head shops understand it every time too. They're like, "Oh, this is getting a lot cleaner." That makes sense why it's pricier.
Mm-hmm. Well, like going back to my student Richard, like him and I, he's got a pretty good I helped him establish his own line of work. Like they weren't my styles necessarily. I mean, some of the standard shit out there, but I helped him fine tune his line. And I'm calling his line. I'm gonna start promoting his line for him, and it's called the Apprentice line, and it's gonna be priced at the fact that this is made by my apprentice. And then eventually we'll transition his stuff into his own artist page in a sense, but he's still under the Apprentice line. And I think it's for one thing, I think it's a great way to market the fact that this stuff isn't the best quality, but the quality's still there. It's not the fucking, it's not a Jason Lee or a Marcel piece or whatever, but the quality's still there, but it's still done by an apprentice under my brand.
It's interesting because my buddy Matt Jacobs, he goes by Sugar Matt. He's a China killer as far as his work, and it's funny because as far as he's concerned, everything is sellable, and he's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Every single piece you make is sellable. You just have to find the price that it's sellable for.
Yep.
So, and that helps you really figure out your own prices, I find. When your earlier pipes, if you walk in with some, 1, 2, 3 month pieces and you're asking $10, $15 for them, shops are going to go, yeah, no. You walk in there and you go, yeah, $3, $4, they'll probably grab them because everyone wants a $10 pipe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, it's fun. It's fun.
What?
Oh, go on.
You know what you're getting for a $10 pipe.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like years ago, when I helped one of our local companies establish a glass studio, and they had some smoke shops in the town, and I had a bunch of people come on board that were apprenticing under me, and the first round of stuff that we were making, I knew was not going to be good shit. So I'm very adamant about, doesn't matter what the fuck your shit looks like, as long as your carb's the right place, the right size hole, your bowl's a good push, the whole, all that shit, and it functions. You're not going to burn yourself.
Function over form.
Right, exactly. So we had literally had a basket on the shelf that was like $10 hand pipes. And they were like little 3-inch Chinese black spoons or cobalt blue spoons because I was teaching just the process, you know what I'm saying? And I teach the process to them as a crash course in color because it helps you, to me, when you have a color like blue and black, for instance, you can really see your heat base because of how intense the orange gets, you know what I mean? And it's also,
absolutely.
You can actually maybe sell them a little faster too because it's a quote-unquote full-color pipe, But
yeah,
I would go through each individual one, and if the bowl was fucked up or the carb was fucked up, I'd put it to the side, and I would usually like rip the neck off and use it for a chillum or something. But we had baskets upon baskets of these little $10 spoons in the store, and they sold like fucking crazy.
Yeah,
they flew off the fucking shelves.
Absolutely.
The shop loved it.
I mean, especially where you guys are down in Florida, you're going to have so many tourists coming in just trying to buy a pipe for the weekend.
Dude, I make disposable pipes. Yeah, disposable pipes, bro. It's all it is. Like when I go on road trips, I was telling my daughter about this shit, and if I go travel, say, through 4 or 5 states, I'll bring like 6 or 10 pipes of that, just cheap little wrapping rigs for myself for my travels. And before I get to the next state, I chuck that dirty motherfucker out the window. So I'm traveling into these next states with a clean piece,
Absolutely. And it's funny, too, because if you walk in to like a party or a social situation and you're like, I got throwaway pipes, 10 people will buy it.
Yep.
You made $100 for some not so great quality work because, it's either early day work or you just know it's a $10 pipe. So, you don't necessarily have to put everything that is you into it.
Well, dude, even myself, after doing this for 20 years, I love to sit down for like 3 or 4 hours and just crank out a shit ton of little 3-inch wrapping rakes. And just to compete with
for
myself,
sure.
like, can I make 20 of these? I mean, sometimes, like when I was in full production, but I was making like 20 of them an hour. Don't get me wrong, I have my points already pulled, so I got to count the time of that. But literally, I could sit down and make 20 of these things an hour. And usually, I made them on like, I'd take a 4-inch point and make 2 spoons at a time, kind of thing with it. And I'm gonna do a whole show on how, like, on shortcuts and cheats and stuff, and doing, in terms of production down the road. But yeah, man, and I would go to these. I would be invited to come to parties, and I would have my little bucket of shit. I'd sell $20 spoons all fucking night long, and I'd set my little torch up on a table and do a little demo out back, and the party's rocking. And next thing you know, someone else has a party, and they invite you to their party just to go sell glass. It's pretty cool. I've always wondered about the whole like Tupperware and dildo parties. Start doing pipe parties. And bring a couple rigs that you can use, or a couple flower pieces that are dirty, and just have people there taking orders and shit from you. Kind of thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I was introduced to the world of glass as a pipe maker. Now that I've kind of figured out glass, I've got a pretty good understanding, I think. I know that it's going to be, I'm going to laugh at this, 5 years down the road when I say it, but I understand how to shape and work glass to an extent. So it's nice to explore things other than pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to be able to branch out from the pipe world because there's more of a demand elsewhere for other glass objects.
Yeah, dude. But like having Eli on last week for last week's episode talking shot glasses, and it never really dawned on me that it's like the shot glass is just one more thing we can add to our sets. You got your rig, you got your flower piece, you have your dabber, your carb cap, maybe a dome if you're still using domes and glass nails, and then you got a fucking Q-tip jar and maybe a shot glass on the side.
Yeah.
It all comes.
It's an ISO jar, a Q-tip jar, whatever it may be, but it's just another object you can sell.
Yeah.
When I was listening to the Eli episode, I was breaking down some tubing to do some blow-in spoons, and he was like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah, shot glass," and my head just exploded, and I'm like, you know what? That's exactly what I'm doing right now. So I did exactly that, and you saw the picture the other day.
Yeah.
Like I was working on that shot glass as I was listening to that, and then from there I decided to make a actual cup the other day, and it was an 8-ouncer, so I'm pretty happy with the way, but it's like, the more things you make, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, man, it's just being an overall glass artist. I'm all about being a pipe maker because I'm inside and out of my blood and everything. I'm a pipe maker at heart. That's just me. But like you're saying, it's understanding the medium, which is how I teach it. Understand your medium so you can make whatever the fuck you want to make. And if you can't make it right away, you'll figure it out because you understand the medium. And like the shot glasses, like if you're a marble maker, for instance, and you've never gotten into doing tubing, a shot glass is a great way to learn how to make a marble and then attach it to some tubing and make a shot glass out of it to understand how to work tubing. This is just,
it's
so many cool things.
Interesting how big of a difference the hollow and solid world is. I've talked to some people that do solid work, and they're like, "Yeah, I got on hollow tubing. That was fucking weird."
Totally. Some of the guys I work with, man, they've been doing solid work for 25, 35 years. And you give them a piece of tubing, and they're like, it's like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I mean, the more versed you are in glass, the better off you're going to be in every sense of the term. Because if you want to do something that requires, you're a hollow glass blower and you want to do a lot of solid attachment, you got to figure out how to work solid to then be able to attach it to the hollow and still have it all work out for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with that being said, with the shot glass, like, where do you see yourself going, like, work-wise in the next couple of years? Do you have like a kind of a vision for where you want the glass to take you?
I mean, I'm just I want to keep enjoying making rigs, trying new designs, and just exploring everything in that sense. I want to be able to make, pint glasses. I have a lot of friends that enjoy the beer, so I'd love to be able to make them, each a nice glass, and just really explore this medium as much as I can to find out where my voice actually lies in it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're on the right path, man. You're not cutting corners, which is good,
Yeah, I mean, it's not worth it. If you half-ass something, you got to go back and do it again. So you might as well just do it right the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, if you're making complex stuff and you don't really understand how glass works, you're just gonna screw yourself over. Or you can take some time to really understand the medium, and then when you actually go to attempt that, it'll go a lot smoother.
Yeah.
You know, like when I made my first recycler, it was probably a month and a half ago, and I pretty much effortlessly assembled the whole thing because I took the time to really get the ring seal down, and you know, I bent a piece of tubing and did 100 Jesus seals and figured every piece of the recycler out before I assembled my first recycler.
That's smart. A little R&D beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of that, my first, you know, it functioned properly. It came out nice and went smoothly, and I was really happy with it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's like myself having the experience. Like one day I want to make a Klein, so I'm like, I'm gonna make a fucking Klein today, and you can't really see that it's a Klein except for like the tube on the side going in and out, but because the whole thing's covered in frit, so you can't see like the internal workings of it going on, you know. But it functions really good. It's got a couple cracks in it. I kept it for myself just to have my own little thing or whatever. But because I know the medium, I was able to.
I have the only floating recycler that I made was the first one I made, and I just decided to keep it for myself.
Hell yeah.
And then, I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind.
It's all good.
Oh yeah, the Klein is the next one I want to make, but I've been exploring a recycler with a salt style drain, and that's kind of, you know, I'm just kind of focused on that right now and figuring out where this can take me while not going too close to rye crafted glasses, hourglasses, and take some of the knowledge I have with this technique and see what I can do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's smart. And especially because, you know, it seems like you're the kind of artist that isn't going to always just be like, hey, look what I made today. You're like behind the scenes, like in your lab making a bunch of shit, and you're not going to share anything until you feel like it's worth sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny too because you know, I was always brought up to have a solid work ethic. I was, you know, literally told all my life, you don't call out of work unless you're dead. And so I always thought I had a great work ethic, and then I started working for Christian. And, you know, I saw what it really took to do this successfully. And through that, I know that if I want to be able to do this, I need to put in a lot more hours than any 9 to 5 will ever ask of you.
Yeah, it's the whole idea of like the first person in the gym and the last person to leave. You know, like you hear these guys that are like the best football players or athletes in the world, and those are the guys that are first to get there and the last to leave, just because of the work ethic, the time you're putting in. And you're doing you're doing it, dude. You're doing the research and shit, like you're saying. You know, practicing your Jesus seals before you even attempt it. And doing those Jesus seals, I mean, I've only actually been able to do it myself just from practicing to see if I could do it, like maybe 3 times. That actually came out super clean. I'm sure now that I've done it 3 times, I could do it again, but I haven't personally put the effort and time in there to learn that shit like I have making the spoon or wrapping rakes. So I got to get caught up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I used to spin, or I do still spin toy, and I juggle as a hobby, and both of those, you know, juggling is pretty much got just as intense of a learning curve as blown glass does. You are going to fuck everything up for months before you even come close to doing something. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to take you months more before it comes out right. So like having focused my time on the discipline required to get good at doing that, when I transferred over to glass, I knew exactly what it was going to take for me to be able to do this and to be where I wanted to be. I knew that the more time I put in, the better off I was going to be. Yeah,
man. It's all about that being disciplined. Like, I get asked at work all the time, like, so how long did it take you to learn this stuff? And I'm like, well, how long does it take you to learn how to play guitar? You know, it's like, you know, such an easy metaphor to kind of compare to. Because it's true. It's like, okay, you can melt glass all day, but can you make whatever, you know, How much time have you put into this specific technique? Just practicing that over your, practicing your skills. It's like doing my jump roping. Same fucking shit. Learning how to jump rope properly.
Yeah. Also, just because you can do it, how consistently can you do it?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, it's amazing, and it's fun, man. That's what I like about this glass, because there's so many things that transition into just life, and being good at being a good human being, and figuring out your own shit and stumbles and blocks and fuck ups, and it's all relatable to just life in general.
Yeah, glass absolutely humbles you. I remember when I first started blowing glass, I was getting tattooed, and I was talking to my tattoo artist about everything, and obviously he made the leap of being an independent artist and doing his thing, so he was backing me 100% on it. And we're sitting there talking about everything, and he's tattooing me, and I was like, yeah, just imagine if you made one wrong move in this tattoo and everything just disappeared. He's like, dude, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And we're a second session, but like 15 to 20 hours in on this piece, and so it's like he really would understand. And obviously at that point I wasn't capable of putting that much time into a piece successfully, but I knew what was going to happen. I don't get mad when I break shit. I pick it up, I find out what I did wrong, and I attempt it again. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing you can do if you plan on moving forward.
Yeah, me like doing the hot shop the last 6 months for myself, it's really reinforced the whole idea that if it ain't right, then stop and start over. Because there were so many times, I've spent so much time trying to fix something, and then even when I first started making pipes, my buddy Daniel, who gave me some foundational techniques and stuff, he was like, dude, it's so much faster just to make it again. Don't fucking try to fix it. Just throw it away and start over. Because the longer more you get more and more and more frustrated, because it either you go to fix a crack and then it cracks somewhere else, or you know what I mean. It's like so
then it's probably going to leave a mean scar if it does crack. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's interesting for me because I do, like I said, predominantly fume work and clear work. My work shows through and through. You can see exactly
completely
where I fucked up and where I did this and I did that, and I've always enjoyed that body of work, but I find that it's allowed for me to make my work substantially cleaner because it tells everything.
Yeah, that makes really a lot of sense. I think that was for myself too. That was why I started getting in, like before the clear trend started, I really started focusing on just making everything clear. Just like most of my, like I was doing some natural perks, for instance, and I really wanted to make sure that my welds, everything was super clean. So I was like, fuck all this color shit. I'm just going to start doing everything clear. And it made a huge difference.
It absolutely does, because, just like I said with, making the Jesus seal and doing the ring seals and getting everything I needed to figure out before the recycler, if you can, make this beautiful piece that you want in clear, 5-6 times, then you can make it in color or whatever decoration you want to put on it. And also, if everything goes awry, one of those 5 times you make them clear, you don't have hours of prep work dumped into it, in decorating it.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, dude. That's why I was like the concept of making a clear sketch first in glass before you do anything else. Yeah. And then you hold on to that piece and just put it in a bucket with all your other sketches that you've done.
Yeah, or you just make it a shop piece.
Yeah, that too, which I usually do. Yeah, my ex-wife, her backyard is a graveyard of all my old first pieces and shit. I'd make a couple pieces and use one for myself, and then, okay, time to go in the backyard, and I'd dig a hole and bury it. Go on to the next thing.
Yeah. I remember I went up to Full Tank in Burlington, Vermont, and we walked in, and they had this big fish tank, and they had a bunch of broken pieces laid out through the fish tank, and that was the first time I had seen it. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I looked at her, I'm like, yep, when we get a place, that's happening. Mm-hmm. Like, I've got plenty of mangled pieces that would look really nice in water, so we're going to do that.
Hell yeah. I had a good friend of mine back in the day that he was notorious for breaking his shit. Like every week he's calling me, do I need a new pipe? Or whatever. And he had a huge, I think it was like 150-gallon saltwater tank. And the bottom of his tank, like his reef was all his broken pipes.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's a great way to display it and still have some form of use for, the pieces that aren't really worth putting back together in one way or another.
Absolutely, man. So when it comes to marketing your work, like, are you doing any kind of trade shows at all or and stuff, or are you just really just strictly just sticking to selling straight to the shops?
I mean, I did my first trade show back in April, I want to say it was. It was the Atlantic City Champs. And I just paid Matt Jacobs for a part of his booth. And that was my first exposure to it. I mean, it went well. You know, I profited, but it seemed to be a slow trade show for a number of people. So I wasn't too sure what to think of it, but for the most part, I used Instagram and I just go to shops. My girlfriend's an actress, so she travels a lot. So when I go to visit her, or we need to go somewhere for an audition, or I'll go with her while she goes to somewhere for an audition, and I'll just call up head shops and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in the area. I'd love for you to check out my work." So I kind of it's kind of the old school mentality. Just cold call shop.
Yeah, it's smart. I hear a lot of business people that. Well, yeah, it's true though, man. Because like I heard this one guy I listened to on his show's called the Solopreneur Hour. Michael O'Neill's the host, and his whole concept of his show is his show's for the unemployable, kind of concept for self-employed people. And he talks a lot about, like, if you were to communicate with somebody before email, how would you go about doing it? You pick up the fucking phone,
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a weird thing. But when you're calling the shops, like, are you calling asking for the owner, or like what's your call about? Like, how do you go about that?
My exact call is, "Hi, my name's Sully Reynolds. I'm a glassblower out of Massachusetts. I was wondering with whom I could speak to in regards to possibly setting up an appointment to show you some of my work." And that's, I get on the phone and I explain to them, if they ask what I do, I say mostly production. I have some art stuff. I have flower, I have spoons, Sherlock, whatever, everything that I make. And, I go, "I'd love to show you my work." They say, "Yeah, swing by." Because every head shop's going to check out, at least check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, as long as I have the in, I'm confident enough in my work and my prices that if they have the money, that they'll pick up something.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah, because nothing's worse than going to a shop without calling them unannounced and expect a sale.
Yeah, I'm not about that. It's just I feel that it's just not gonna. It's a bad first impression. I mean, I've done it. I'll walk into a shop and just be like, "Hey, I'm a glass blower. Sorry I didn't call. Do you have a minute to check out some of my work?"
Mm-hmm.
And if it, you know what I mean, I try. It's really, I find that it's how you approach anyone in life that will determine the situation. So if you acknowledge that, yeah, it was kind of a dick move to guerrilla sale someone, then they tend to be a little bit less off-putting about it. I've had other places that are more than happy that, they couldn't care less. It's, "Hey, here's a glass blower. I love checking out glass." So it's just a matter of being able to read the situation and play it off from there.
Yeah, it's smart, dude. It's a good practice too, and it's just human communication skills, and admitting when you're wrong, because it makes you transparent.
Yeah,
and people can gain a little trust from you that way. Because really, what it comes down to, we are in the business of trust. Period. It don't matter what the fuck you're selling. If you can't be trusted, then nobody's gonna buy shit.
It's funny because, like, I find that, to go back to my job previously, I was a debt collector, so it takes a certain type of conversation to be able to sell someone their own debt, because this was like, from 5-6 years ago, it was a cell phone bill that they, for whatever reason didn't pay. And a lot of these, so to then be able to sell yourself to the point where they're then going to give you money with nothing back except for, a credit score bump, maybe. It you really start to learn how to conversate with people, especially because most of the time they're calling very aggressively.
Yeah, for sure.
So you start to really figure out how to interact with people in any type of manner. I was calling people across the country, I started to learn how each person, obviously blanket statement, but what type of people are from what areas, and you start to be able to read them, and it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, where go on, dude.
Another thing too is I always love telling people, it's like I go on vacation and turn it into a business trip. Just call a couple shops, bring your glass with you if you're driving. Why wouldn't you? It's like it's silly. Take a couple hours and make a sale. Now it's a business trip. You can write it off on your taxes.
Mm-hmm. I do. I'm not to brag about it, but I mean, just with, I'm not bragging. I'm just conversation wise, but sometimes I come across as bragging, maybe, or maybe I am bragging. So whatever. Who gives a fuck? But that being said,
brag.
Yeah,
Right.
There you go. But there's been times where I'm at playing over at Disney, and I had previously set up a phone call for a shop to do a sale, and we have a time set when I'm gonna call them, which is usually how I try to do it, and I'll even set a reminder the day before, hey, I'm gonna call you guys tomorrow at 4:00. Don't forget, blah blah blah. But I love nothing more when I'm on a ride or in line in the queue for a ride, and all of a sudden my PayPal would go off with a fucking deposit. You know what I mean? While I'm playing, it's this is the fucking best, and this is why I love being a glass blower and to be able to do this as a life, because we can, you could be off snowboarding somewhere, and all of a sudden your fucking, your big cartel pops off because someone just bought a whole buttload of jewelry off you or whatever. It's the beauty of being self-employed. And don't get me wrong, having my gig that I have is a whole different situation, but in general, as an artist, that's the lifestyle that you should strive to find, is how to market yourself and be marketable and trustable and have a good work ethic to where you can go fucking play, and while you're playing, you're making money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because the idea of when you're self-employed, there's no such thing as punching out in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
If you plan on being successful, you need to commit every single day and potentially any hour of that day to it, or else you're gonna find yourself having issues. And luckily enough, my girlfriend's an actress. Again, sorry to repeat myself.
Oh, you're good.
So when we first got together, both of us looked at each other and were like, "Look, I want this, but my career comes first, because when everything's said and done, although it would be nice to still be together, we don't know that we will."
Mm-hmm.
And so we got that out of the way real quick, and so there's been any holiday that you can think of, except maybe Christmas, that one of us might have had to work. And so when I went on my road trip, I was like, "Oh, I'll be gone for 6 weeks." 5 weeks in, I said, "Oh, I'm gone for 2 more months."
Yeah.
And instead of being mad or anything, she said, "Congrats, have a great time, enjoy yourself," and to have that type of support system really allows you to excel a lot faster too.
Dude, it's huge. I mean, as a man and as a glass artist and as a business owner and wanting to provide for yourself and those around you, whether you're providing for your girlfriend or not, but you want to still set an example, and that you can, so that way you make a good husband one day, to have a woman behind you like that, to be able to say, "Dude, go do it," because I know you have to go do that. I've got a couple friends in my life right now that they understand if we don't talk for a couple weeks, because I'm fucking just focused on what I'm doing. I'll maybe send an occasional text, but my past
occasional, "Hey, I hope you're well."
Yeah, exactly. But dude, both of my past
I send those out regularly.
Yeah, I do too, all the fucking time. But my past 2 marriages, I think part of it, the reason they didn't work, was because the person I was with didn't have the mentality of understanding what it means to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, and all the things that you're constantly having to deal with. And I hate the fact that our phones are, I love it, but I hate it also that our phones are like a portable mobile business. I had to find okay, at this time of night, my phone's going in my top drawer of my bedroom, and I'm not touching it until everybody goes to bed, and then I'll get back on there and do some emails or whatever.
Airplane mode.
Yeah, totally, exactly. So it's it's just finding that balance, but to have that support structure behind you, that someone understands that, it's huge. And either you have the woman in your life who manages you because you need to be managed, which is not a bad thing. I'll admit it. That's something I can need sometimes. But that manages the business and the stuff or whatever. Or you have, just like you have, the support structure, and she still cares about you. Yeah.
She helps keep me organized too in her spare time.
Oh, there you go.
It's definitely there.
Yeah, it's huge, and you got
and
that's why, and that's kind of leads me to where I was going to go with the next question too. With this is like, regarding your business side of things, like how do you go about keeping track of all your shit?
Keeping track of I make sure to keep receipts on everything. Luckily enough, my mother is an accountant, so I have that to help me out, and it makes things a lot easier for me.
Well, dude, and I'm glad you said that, because whether you have your mom as an accountant or just have to hire one, an accountant is the number one tool in your business that you should have for anything.
I'm just saying it's helpful because I don't,
it's super convenient.
Go, hey, Mom,
it's convenient for
I
you.
need a hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful, and it a lot, at an earlier start, it makes things a lot easier. And when it comes to tax time, she can help me figure out what the hell I need to be doing.
Yeah. So are you incorporated for yourself? Like, how do you go about with all your legalities?
I am just I'm honestly not 100% sure exactly what she files me as. I believe it's just a 1099.
Okay.
Or it was a 1099 when I was working for Christian, and then I'm not 100% sure right now what it is.
Yeah, well, she'll probably just do it as like a what the hell's the word I'm looking for? Of course, I'm having a brain fart when I'm sitting here trying to talk business.
Yeah, it happens.
But anyways,
it's the only time to.
Yeah, it totally. It'll come back to me like 4 o'clock in the morning. But just being like a small business owner, because you're not a LLC, so you're not looking for tax shelters and that kind of shit. You're just you're just a solo entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And the only thing that sucks with that though is that if you not paying quarterly taxes, you get penalized every year. So the benefits of even being a small business owner and filing for a Schedule C, which is like quarterly taxes basically. It'll save you money in the long run. But maybe talk to your mom about that too. She might be able to help you get set up for that.
That is the next move to make. I know that. It's just a matter of doing so, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Just got to get the paperwork and print that shit out.
Yeah. It's fun. Oh joy, the business. I'm awful at the business that end of it. I just want to be in my studio producing, and it's a common trait amongst all of us. It seems everyone doesn't really want to handle the business they're selling. They just want to blow glass. That's why we do this, So it's helpful having people around me that will help me out in the ends of it that I'm not as good in.
Well, but the fact that you understand that and then you have someone to help you in that area is what's important. Like, that's things I've had to learn, because I'm one to like take it all on. I want to do it all myself because I don't trust anybody else doing it for me as good as I'm doing it. Bullshit, So as I've been learning to hand off these certain tasks and duties, it's like, dude, it's such a relief. Like, I mean, I carry probably 20 plates now as it is, and it's like, okay, please take this plate from me. I'll pay you. It will make such a relief.
Again, to circle back to the don't half-ass anything, full asset. It's the more tasks you take on, the less focus you can actually put into them. Mm-hmm. So the worse off you're going to do. And and with the apprenticeship with Christian taught me, walk into the studio and figure out what mood you're in. You're either going to be in a productive mood, a creative mood, or an organizational mood. Acknowledge that and do exactly that, because that's what will be the best way for you to succeed in the day. And so that has been very helpful for me. If I'm feeling productive, I rage production. If I'm feeling organizational, I clean up my bench. I straighten out my paperwork. I get my shit together. I do an inventory. I figure out, how much glass I need. I start calling shop. If I'm feeling creative, I, try to make a nice piece. And I find that has been the most helpful for me in making sure that I use every day as best I can.
Well, it's fucking huge. I mean, and is that like a? I'm not saying you're doing this every day, but is it a daily routine that you have?
I mean, most of the time, my daily routine is to wake up and go to the shop.
Yeah.
And regardless of what I am doing that particular day, I'll end up on the torch for a little while as long as I'm here. But there's days that I wake up and I just go, I shouldn't go to the shop today, and I acknowledge that, and I go elsewhere, hang out with people, go in the woods, do whatever. And I find that maintaining, I wake up every day, I go get my coffee, I go drive down to the shop, I hang out, I take my first dab, I start my kiln up, I do my prep work while my kiln's warming up, and then I start my day. And that way, if I find that when you get into the shop and you just get right to it, you're going to be more focused all day long. If you get in the shop and you start fucking off for a while, that's going to be the setup for your day.
Yeah, and I think too, like a lot of people that I just being around studios, like I've noticed, like you have your studio space, so you should also have like a chill space, and not chill in the studio space, because if you get in the habit of chilling in the studio space, then that becomes habit, and you just start chilling out in your studio space instead of getting shit done.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's huge.
It's a tough one. When I was at one of the studios I was in before, Matt was like, "Yeah, no, we're not putting a couches here. We're not. There's not like you're here to work. Like that is why you're here. If you want to fuck off, go elsewhere."
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you said, it's the best way to do it because that differentiates between the two. In no way, shape, or form is anyone saying don't fuck off, but please do it elsewhere because the shop is production. That's where you're supposed to be productive.
Yeah, dude, and that's why I would say about like working in blocks, like do a 3-hour shift and then go take an hour off and go somewhere, go for a walk even, or take a nap, whatever it is, but get out of the fucking studio space. It's like, that's why, and that's why Starbucks is so fucking their coffee isn't what don't get me wrong, their coffee is why they make their money. However, the business model and their idea of creating a place for communities to come to not have to pay rent first for an office, to have a place where you could come with your friends and have a meeting that's free, blah, blah, blah. And then while you're there, you'll spend $5 on a coffee.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, all that shit. And that's their fucking business model. It was a chill place to come and socialize and get some work done instead of being in your home where you have all the distractions of laundry and dishes and whatever. And they just added coffee to it, and now they've added everything else to it, and now they're a multi-gazillionaire company that you see in every fucking corner around the country, around the world nowadays even. And,
Absolutely.
And if you look at that, and that's kind of what I was going to say earlier too, it's like everybody listening to this has had a job, and every job teaches you skills on how to open a business and how to close the business through routines and checklists. And if you just create these checklists for yourself, like I remember doing a register every night, closing out, and we would do our little Z out that would end the day's sales, and I would have my printouts and put my cash in the bank envelope and then go to the bank. But because I work out of my house, and when I was making my money, a lot of it, the cash wasn't cash business, so I wasn't always going to the bank, and it was all PayPal or whatever, which made it easier for me to then put in my personal checking account and then spend it without me realizing or knowing it, but not being responsible with my money. Instead of taking the money out and then going to a whole different fucking bank than what I personally banked with, that's my business bank, and then go put my money in there so it doesn't get touched. Those are the things I learned running Subway for 7 years, but it took me forever to implement that into my own business, even though I already had the skills there.
Yeah, no, that's actually right where I'm at right now. Is I'm thinking about opening up another bank account with a separate company because it's way too easy to get on my phone and just go, whoop, transfer.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And so it's interesting that you bring that up because that's definitely something I'm realizing myself is like take all those things I, learned in working, 9 to 5 or whatever it may be, but like the corporate world, and see because those are majorly successful businesses, so they clearly know what they're doing, and see what you can implement from there into your own business, and it'll probably be beneficial. And if it's not, figure out why it's not and work it out, and never get comfortable. As long as you're constantly trying to improve everything about yourself and your business, then there's a good chance that you'll be able to succeed. Because if you're ever just become complacent, you're gonna. I feel like with complacency comes fucking off and kind of just a little bit more apathy and so if you're constantly trying to better yourself and your business, then there's never the time to focus on not caring about it. And that way you'll strive forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually just giving me an idea for a show talking about scheduling ahead. Because like, well, I heard this chick one day talking about stuff, and she was saying like part of like goal setting for the years, and she's like, fuck goals, I don't do goals. What I do is I get a calendar out and I write down when I'm taking vacation first, and I plan my entire year around my vacation. And that philosophy got me just thinking about the trade shows, for instance, or vacation. Say we're going to do Champs in Denver in fucking April, and it's 6 months away. Okay, 6 months from now, I know I need this amount of glass. I need this amount of cash in my pocket. What's it going to take from here to then to make that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the vacation's the same way.
This is something, again, to circle back to Christian. Christian brought up was Warren Buffett, talks about how people, spend and then they save. If you save and then spend, you're going to be better off.
Yeah.
If you open up your paycheck and you go, this money for bills, this money for this money for this money for saving, okay, this is how much I have left to spend, then things are going to work out better for you. And it's that same concept of plan around what you want to do. And when on December 1st, I'm leaving for wherever, I need X amount of dollars, you're going to figure out how to come up with X amount of dollars.
Yeah. Like I always hear Dave Ramsey talk about a lot where like, if say your kid has a disease and this cure that's available for you costs you $20,000, you're going to find a way to come up with $20,000 fucking dollars. And if you treat everything in your life like it's your fucking kid, you're going to treat it responsibly and do whatever it takes to keep it alive and safe, or what, you know what I'm saying, like metaphorically speaking. And
no, absolutely. I mean, the more you focused on giving a fuck about whatever it may be, the better off you're going to be. And I mean, people strive towards vacations. Understandably, everyone loves vacation, but when you're self-employed and you go, like to repeat myself, you leave this date and you're gone for this amount of time. So not only do you make sure to cover yourself from now till then, but you also make sure to find the money to cover yourself for that time that you're gone, because we don't get vacation pay.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah, man.
It's interesting too, because I tell, when I talk to people that have asked me about my glass career and everything, I say, I quit my job just walked away, said I'm not getting another one, I'll figure it out. And I was dead set on doing so. And it's amazing what you can accomplish if your only option is success. Like I would dead set in my heart not to go back to get another job, and I made damn certain that I didn't. And as long as I set whatever goal, or not even goal, but whatever decision I make, as long as I stay focused on the decision and don't veer off, I tend to make it happen because of the hyper focus on it.
Yeah.
And it's what I want.
Yeah, it's good, man.
If you want something in life, you got to make it happen. No one's going to do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And, although Christian provided me with all the foundation to be successful, it still took me getting in there every day and working my ass off day in and day out to be able to do so.
Yeah, dude, you took an opportunity and you took advantage of it in a positive way. There's nothing worse than getting an opportunity and being like, no thanks, or going in there for 2 days and half-assing it, whether you're passionate about it or
absolutely.
not. I mean, you can at least walk away and say, this isn't for me, but obviously if you want to be a glassblower, that's not something that you say. You just really, you dig into it and you're respectful about it, which you seem to, accomplish very well.
Yeah, when, after Oregon, or after Marcel's, Christian was like, hey, I bought a RV with my buddy. We're going on the road. We'll be back in Massachusetts on August 20th. I could use a hand on the road. I can't pay for you, or I can't pay you, but I'll cover your, I'll make sure that you're fed and you have a roof over your head. I said, all right. That was an opportunity that I knew that if I turned down or fucked off on, I was going to regret it forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be an amazing opportunity, and it allowed me to learn more than I ever thought I'd learn in such a short amount of time, and introduced me to, a large portion of the higher names and everything. So I was able to interact with them and pick their brains and, establish some a relationship with them, and it's been so beneficial in every way, shape, or form. The fact that I didn't have a monetary value coming in, it was irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to take that financial hit because of the opportunity that's being provided to you.
Well, did you have a cushion already, kind of put aside, made just in case you needed something like that? So when you got back, you're able to pay rent and shit.
Well, I still had some money saved. I had my own money, so I just had to make sure to not fuck off with it.
Right, exactly.
So, and I thought ahead, and when I was on my trip, or before I left for my trip, I made sure to leave, a few cases of glass at my shop so that I had glass to come home and sell.
Oh, cool. Smart. Yeah, smart, dude. Thinking way ahead.
Yeah. You got it as far as a lot of this stuff goes. And it's something that, although I know you have to do it, I still find it so many different avenues where I'm like, oh shit, if I had done that, that would have worked out a lot better.
Yeah.
If I just thought a little bit more ahead, then I would have, been able to do whatever it may be. Just have to go ahead.
I was say just the, I guess the idea though is that you really won't ever know until you do it the first time, and then the second time you could be prepared for it completely.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. How do you learn but by fucking up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you got to make the mistake. It's when you make it over and over and over again that it's time to be like, hey, maybe I'm the one fucking up.
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
It's not whatever this might be.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It requires a lot of self-awareness, but in the long run, the self-awareness will always be beneficial. And to think that at any given point you can't better yourself in any way is silly to me. Mm-hmm. Whether it be financially, business-wise, personally, mentally, health-wise, whatever it may be, you can always strive for better.
Yeah, man. That's well said, 100%. And with that being said, dude, I think it'd be a good time for us to take a quick break and thank our sponsors, and then it'll be time for us to come back and crash the kiln.
Sounds good.
All right, cool. This segment of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Zen Dude Fitness. Lose 10 pounds this month by joining the Zen Dude Fitness 4-week jump rope fat loss challenge. Brandon and Dan will take you on a guided journey towards becoming the best you. Get fit, have fun, and find new ways to eat healthy while still enjoying the sweeter side of life. Just takes 20 to 30 minutes a day and no gym required. For more info and to sign up for the free 4-week challenge, go to wiseguymedia.com/ZenDudeFitness. That's wiseguymedia.com/ZenDudeFitness. All right, man, we are all back. So we got the Crash and the Kiln round. Consists of 7 questions. If you want to give me a 30 to 60 second answer on each one of them, and you can also expound upon them as we always do, and as you've heard, 177 times or so. It always happens.
Yeah. This is the part I was nervous about.
Hell yeah. Well, let's shake the nerves. And first question, as always, I like to ask is if there's any living glass artist that you haven't worked with yet that you want to, who is it and why?
That is probably multiple answer question. I would love to work with Chaka, obviously, because he, again, is responsible for me being me, and he's a great guy. I absolutely love him. I'd love to work with Gasp1 on Instagram. His fume work is unbelievably crazy, and, there'd be a lot I could pick up from him. As far as technical things, like someone like a Mike Evans or something would be absolutely nuts. I mean, realistically, I want to collab with anyone. I'm always happy to work with people.
Yeah.
Because no matter what skill level, you're going to walk away with some new knowledge or outlook on it. So anytime you collab with someone, if you look at it right, you'll walk away with something.
Hell yeah. Well said. What are your top 5 favorite colors in glass?
Silver, gold. I'd have to say clear, and double amber purple, and what would be number 5? Black.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. That sounds good.
What's your worst injury in the studio?
My worst burn was,
or just injury in general?
Back when I was worst injury in general. Well, I have worst burn, the burn and the cut. I'd say the cut would probably be the worst one. I was pulling down points one day, and I was going to score the bottom of the handle of the point, and it snapped in my finger, and I got to pull a nice big old chunk of glass out of my fingertip with. It was lodged in there. I had to literally take the tweezers and drag it out.
Dude, I've done that same thing.
And,
same effect. Had to get the tweezers out.
I screamed "fuck" at the top of my lungs. My shopmates looked up and go, "What the hell just happened?" And I pulled up the tweezers and go, "Sorry, I just pulled this out of my finger." So, and then I stuck my hand in the torch once. So that happened.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen, dude.
No, it doesn't. But it's bound to happen because you're standing by a torch all day. But no, it doesn't just happen.
How long were you out of work for from that, or did you just keep going?
I just kept going. I was working for Christian. I couldn't stop. No, I'm kidding. I did just keep. I did just keep going though because it was the better way to go. I burned the top of my fingers. From my middle knuckle, the middle bottom of my fingertip down to my pinky in a nice angle, all got burnt, and it blistered. The middle knuckle blistered up really badly after a while, but I was able to just keep going. We had aloe there, so just throw it on there.
Yeah, it always helps.
Don't think about it.
Right, man. So when you're in the shop, do you like to watch TV, listen to the radio, or do both?
I do both. If I've been on a huge podcast kick for the past couple months, but anytime there's a new comedy special on Netflix, I make sure to check it out.
Hell yeah!
But right now I'm super into podcasts.
Nice. Have you listened to The Way I Heard It by Mike Rowe?
The Way I Heard It? No, I haven't.
Oh, dude, it's only like 10 minutes long each one. I think it's got like 100-something episodes. But yeah, Mike Rowe from like Dirty Jobs and shit. So he's got he's already got a great voice for radio. But each episode, it just basically he tells you a story about something that was very significant and changed the way things have been done in the culture, even around the world. And he doesn't tell you who it is until the very end. And it keeps you guessing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Some of them you can kind of guess and get, but like probably 95% of them you're gonna be wrong.
Interesting. I'll have to grab that name from you again.
Yeah, I'll send it to you in a text, and I'll put it in the show notes too for everybody out there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've actually been I've been trying to get in the habit on my Instagram of doing like podcasts of the week, to start promoting other shows out there. But to do that, I got to get in the routine of doing it, and I want to start doing it on this show too. Like every week, whatever I'm promoting on Instagram, I'll promote it on here too.
And I know I mentioned to you before we started recording, but you should definitely check out Ari Shafir's Skeptic Tank. It's like I was saying.
I've seen the graphic for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that he has, comedians, random people, what have you, anyone that he deems has something worth talking about. They do that. So if you're checking it out, find a name you recognize, start there, and you'll figure out at least it's something you might be interested in, and then you can figure out the premise of the podcast and whether or not you like it. Do you ever listen to Sword and Scale?
No, I haven't.
If you're into true crime, I definitely recommend it. There's some seriously intense episodes that'll make you rethink everything about your life and walk away from it for 2 weeks, but it is a great podcast.
What's it called again?
Sword and Scale.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually been recently turned on to one of my I have a mentorship program through my classes, my online classes I'm doing, and one of my mentees told me about the show called Impact Theory. Tom Bilyeu, I think is how you say his last name. But his philosophy is all about like that our brain is malleable and we can change it and make it do what we want it to do for ourselves, for, you know, our whole thing.
Oh, I strongly believe that myself. I think that if you want to learn something, you can do it. It's just a matter of staying focused on it.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I mean. Like, it's interesting because I personally, I acknowledge that talent exists. I hate the word talent. I hate when people tell me I'm talented, because it's not talent. It's me spending hours upon hours upon hours of my life learning these skills. And if anyone, you know what I mean, anyone can do it. It's just going to take some people longer than it'll take others.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I think because I'm the same boat. I get told that. I mean, I appreciate it whenever the audience or my guests at work tell me this, because I hear it. I mean, literally hundreds of times a day. But I always say it's like I've got a lot of practice. You know, it's like my kind of go-to answer. You know.
And don't get me wrong, like I understand there are, you know, people that are talented, you know, like an Einstein or a Tesla or something like that, like, or a LeBron James, what have you. Like, those people are just born to do exactly what they did. But most of the time, it's, you know, and even with the talent that they were born with, it was still sitting down and doing it 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard this a term called the zone of genius, where it's like everything that you've learned skill set wise, including who you are as a person, all kind of culminates into one thing. And for me, I think the glass was it, you know, and the fact that I have this gig at Disney, which is another part of me as well, has become my zone of genius, you know, in a sense, because I love the performance side of it and the glass and the education and blah, blah, blah. But we all have that zone of genius. So I think what the core of it is a talent of some sort, or a passion, you know, whatever it might be. And then you find the passion and you move forward in skill sets. But you got to have a vision, which is what my whole point of this was. You got to have like a vision of where and what you're doing. And for an artist, you have to have a vision of what the final piece, not always, sometimes it takes you on its own journey, but typically you have, for glass especially, you have to have some kind of final thing in your head of this is what this is going to be. Oh. How do I get there? Yeah, and all this shit that I've practiced over like the last 20 years of my life, that's now going to get me to where I'm at. Because, like, you know, people are like, oh, how long did that take you to make it? I'm like, I could probably make them in like 20 minutes maybe, but we'll say 18 years and 20. Yeah, 18 years and 20 minutes.
It took me 18 years to get the skills to do this in 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I absolutely. I think that you should set a destination, but make sure to enjoy the ride. You know what I mean? Don't stay so focused on where you're trying to go that you miss an opportunity to learn something new that you probably would have never learned because you did, you know, like something happened and here's now a chance to mess with the glass in one way or another.
Yeah.
Well, how you go about.
Go on.
Oh, how you go about life in one way or another. You know what I mean? If you take everything as an opportunity to better yourself, as you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Do that, you can make things work.
Well, and like you talk about your routine that you have to become so that your days are successful with what you're doing, whether you go to work in the studio or not. You know, you have an understanding of what you're doing because you have that vision. You've had, you know where you want to be in your head. Not even, you know, we have to have lots of visions, which I think having a vision board, honestly, is, even though I'm not into all of the stuff in The Secret, but I love the philosophy of it, and having a vision board to me is a powerful thing. So you can constantly see it. Like, if you want to have a certain physique and look, you should have a picture up of whoever, Ryan Reynolds or somebody that's fucking got, you know, a 20-pack and is shredded. If that's what you want to look like, you should see that every fucking day so you can start visualizing it in your head, how you're going to look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's interesting too because it's all in everything is as far as your own thoughts. Mm-hmm. If you have, you know, a lot of negative energy in your life, it's going to be really hard to be positive. It's not to say you can't do it, and once you do it, I find that you'll be better off in the long run. You know, but like if you can just retrain or train your brain to find the opportunity to set the goals and understand that although the path you think you're going to go on is 100% different than the path that you're actually going to end up on, if you make sure to at least keep that destination in mind, and then, like I said, enjoy the ride, whatever it may be, and learn from it when you can, then I think everything will work out better in the long run.
Hell yeah. Well said. All that from... What's your worst injury in the studio?
Yep. That's how I roll.
Yeah, me too, dude. I love it.
No, that was podcast. That was the podcast.
Yeah. I could just take that one little segment right there, and that'd be our entire interview. Hey, so what's your worst injury in the studio? Oh, by the way.
Yeah. Let me just completely ignore what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. It was all because you said that you just burnt your hand, so or it happened. Yeah. So let's see. When you hear the glass crack in the studio, what's the first word that comes to mind?
Fuck.
Hell yeah. Do you have any,
just as defeated sounding too.
Yeah. Just hang your head a little bit.
And well, it's interesting too because I don't actually generally hear glass crack because, like I said earlier, I have my headphones in.
Oh yeah.
So I feel it. You know what I mean? So that's how I know it crack. And that's to go back to earlier conversation. That's another plus side of working with glass from the get-go. You really start to understand the feeling, and in order to be able to listen to headphones and successfully blow glass, you need to be able to recognize when it cracks. And if you don't ever take the time, headphone free, to recognize how you can tell that it's cracking without your ears, then you're not going to be able to tell later on. You're going to pull broken pieces out of the film, and that's always a shitty start to your morning.
Dude, I learned that from the years and years and years of fishing as a kid. And having my finger on the string, just waiting for a little fish to nibble on it. Or refill my shrimp wrapping around. My hands became sensitive to touch, and that sensation of the smallest little minute little change in whatever I'm holding in my hand. And it's funny, dude. These are, like I said earlier, about having a job and learning skills that you can take into your business. The years of growing up fishing taught me how to fucking feel for when my glass cracks, when I have my headphones in.
Yeah, no, it's super helpful because according, at least as far as I'm concerned, there's a hell of a shock wave that runs up your hand.
Yeah.
When a piece breaks, and I mean, that's how I always recognize it. Mm-hmm. So it's funny when I feel like I'll hit my piece off of whatever it may be, and so I'll feel that and I go, oh shit, and I'm like looking around, like freak myself out for a minute, and I'm like, oh okay, we're good.
Man, that reminds me, the other day I was on stage I have these manatee scenes I make, and it's like if you can imagine, the base is like a Mickey icon. It's like, I call it my hidden Mickey base because it's like a big circle, and then there's two small ones that are like his ears, and it's a super sturdy piece because it's a mom and a baby manatee, and the mom manatee is probably like 6 inches long. It's a pretty big piece, and it kind of hangs over the base, so it's super balanced, and they're probably about a 2-hour piece, and then I've been doing them in more of a production way now, where I make every segment of the process, and then I just throw everything together like 6 at a time. And I don't know what the fuck I was doing. I think it was the actual rod. I think we had gotten some, because our warehouse has some Chinese clear that they use for some oddball things there, and I think they sent us to my store on accident a case of some 12 mil or 16 mil Chinese, because literally it just. I was like right at the very end to go grab it with my tongs, and it just like snapped off at the punty. And I'm usually make like a Maria, and then I'll blend the Maria into the base of the bottom, so it's super fucking sturdy, no acute angles, everything's clean. And it was clean as fuck, but it actually removed glass from the base that it was attached to. And I got like probably 30 people in my store watching me, not to mention people shopping, and it's the biggest fucking kaboom, shit went everywhere.
When solid glass breaks, it's everyone knows it.
Yeah, bro, it was crazy. I could hit my bench like a fucking bomb went off, and I got manatees flying left and right, and fucking grass and all kind of shit. And all I could do was just stand there with this rod in my hand, and I look up at the crowd, and I'm like, glass happens. And I just picked up my parts and put them in the kiln.
If you want to blow glass, this is what you can expect.
Yep. And I appreciate for them to see when that happens on stage, because they really get the understanding of, that's why that motherfucker right there costs $145, because these don't always come out.
Well, it's interesting too because like with glass, no matter who you are and how long you've been doing it, you're gonna break shit, and so like it's really humbling to be like, oh yeah, like watching Christian make a crazy piece and it cracks. Like, oh yeah, and you never become immune to this thing, and so it's helpful early on to just get used to it and acknowledge it and figure out how to go from there.
Yeah, exactly. Learn from the mistake.
Yeah. it's most of the time you have a sharp angle or the heat base is completely off. So.
Yeah, exactly. So do you have any glass blowing themed tattoos?
I actually just got my first one a few weeks ago when I went down to Melt. I got a Melt Tanuki.
Cool.
And I've got a few more in the coming up, but I haven't got them yet.
Nice. Yeah. So how was Melt, dude? That's kind of another sidetrack. Like
Melt was unreal. It was exactly what you'd expect when you throw 350 something glass blowers in a campground for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Hustle hard, party hard, and enjoy the hell out of the time. But it was a really awesome opportunity. I got to meet some people that I was unfamiliar with. I got to work with a lot of people. A handful of people went home with sections of mine to do collabs with, and it was awesome too, because a bunch of the people I had met on my road trip came out to Melt, so I got to spend some time with them and see them again.
Nice.
And just catch up with them. It was a really awesome time, and I suggest that everybody attend it.
Yeah, I want to bring whoever's promoting it and putting it on this year I want to bring them on the show to talk about it, because I think it's a cool concept, and because with the AGI kind of fizzling out after a while, and I guess it's back again from what I've been hearing, but I think Melt was kind of like what was going to take its place in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say shoot East Coast Melt page a message. I'm sure that you can figure out how to get in touch with who you need to get in touch with from there.
Yeah. I'm gonna write that shit down right now if I forget. Yeah, man. So the last question, which has changed over the years, but what are your top 5 favorite tools besides your glasses and your torch? Oh, and before I say that, before you start, what kind of torch do you use? I didn't even ask.
I use a GTT Phantom.
Okay, cool.
I love it. It's not, it does what it needs to do. I think that it's the person, not the tool. If you regardless of the tool that you have, if you know how to do what you do, you can do it well.
Yeah.
So, although my Phantom doesn't pull down tubing as quickly as I'd like it to, I still absolutely love it.
Hell yeah. So after that, what are your top 5 favorite tools?
My top 5 favorite tools number 1 would have to be my straight rollers. It's a wonderful tool. I'd have to say my smaller octagonal reamer. I'm growing fond of my knife, my tweezers, what's that for, and my paddle.
Cool. Hell yeah. Just something completely off topic and off the side of my head here. So you seen Monsters Inc. before?
Oh yeah, I love it.
So isn't his name Sully? The
Yep. I was just about to say what makes it even better is I have a friend that's like a foot shorter than me named Mike. I keep telling him I'm gonna gouge his eye out so he can do the true Mike Wazowski.
Oh, that's hilarious. I was just thinking, too bad you couldn't manipulate that his look a little bit to make that your logo design or something different.
What's even better is that my arm is tattooed mostly blue and purple.
Interesting.
So I find that quite entertaining.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
But I actually spell it differently than he does. He adds an E. Sulley.
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
Oh, that's so funny, dude. Well, before we wrap this up, if you want to tell us where we can find you out there in the world of cyberspace, and then give us a little bit of parting advice.
Cyberspace would be Sully Reynolds on Instagram. Parting advice would be don't rush it. Just, like I said, enjoy the destination or enjoy the journey, not the destination. And also, as Chaka always said, own it. Whatever it may be, just own it. Everything will work out if you do that.
Hell yeah. And act like you've been there before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just helped summarize that for you, because that's the first thing that popped in my head. But it's so true. Own that shit.
Yeah, whatever it may be. If you're being a dick, just say, hey, sorry, I was being a dick. If you're being awesome, just say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm being awesome.
I'm just that fucking awesome.
if you make drug paraphernalia for a living and you're talking to an old person, just say, hey, I make drug paraphernalia for a living. I'll tell you it's awesome because you're doing what you want to do.
Dude, it reminds me the other day, another reminding here, off topic part of the conversation. So I finished up my demo and I had a guy mid-demo was asked something about something about tobacco pipes, right? Or like quote, and did like the air quotes and shit. And I got like in the hot shop, we have like enough space for probably about 40 people that could stand there comfortably and watch us doing our thing. And we got like about 40 people watching me make this fucking pumpkins, and or maybe I was making ornaments. I don't remember, but anyways. And I was like, I kind of like laughed about it, ha ha ha. So he's like hanging out after I'm all done, and he was a electronic metal worker guy. We were talking at first about his stuff he was doing. He was kind of showing me how he incorporates glass and shit, and he's like, was tired to tell me about his sister and her first husband, who was a quote unquote pothead pipe maker, right? And I was like, oh shit, I used to make pipes. I did that for like the first 13 years of my life to learn how to make glass. And then he starts, and he's like, well, look what I do for a living. And he pulls out his phone, and the dude's a fucking federal cop, right? Out of like somewhere up north in Boston somewhere. And he's like showing me like all.
I'm in Boston.
Okay. Oh yeah.
South Hub.
Well, he was showing me like the police cruisers and stuff that he does all like he's been doing all these new light packages for him, and the shit was fucking badass. So we got this whole conversation about undercover cops, and like the whole pipe conversation completely was like out of left field. He kind of gave me that look. I was like, oh okay, and then just we went on with the conversation. But then he told me he was a cop after I was told him that shit. It was quite shocking.
Sorry, I remember when I was at Chalice, and there was obviously the cops walking around keeping the peace. And they were in the artist booth, and they were like, yeah, we just walked by someone that said their bong was worth $40,000. We're like, yeah, I know that's probably very true. And so, like, we're sitting, and his head exploded because people, not everyone understands price tags attached to some of these pieces. And so, like, Christian and I are sitting down having a conversation with this dude about pipes and everything, and, like, explaining to him what carb caps are and how carb caps work, and how there's, the money in the industry that there is, and how people decide who gets what, and blah, blah, blah. And it was just really awesome to sit down with, a police officer and just have a real conversation about what it is we do. And, everyone tends to forget that people are people, behind whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. If you can passionately talk about what you do, everyone will back you on it. Yep. It's when you start being sketchy about it and trying to dodge, when you're dodgy, people think you're up to something. So if you're just like, yeah, hey, I make pipe. I absolutely love making pipe. This is how I feed myself. Everyone goes, fuck yeah for you,
Yep, exactly, dude. That's awesome. Too cool, man. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our chit chat here with Mr. Sully Reynolds. We went all over the damn place. Stayed on track here and there, but that's how the show rolls, dude. So definitely, again, I appreciate it.
We maintained glass the whole conversation, at least glass related.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all like life related somehow or other. So it's all
absolutely
all encompassing.
Well, I can't thank you enough for having me on the show, man. It's absolutely awesome to be a part of this, and I really hope to see this continue to grow and become, a big major podcast that everyone knows about.
Hell yeah, thank you. Me too.
I'd hope so, man.
Little by little. Yeah, it's now that I'm settled in and have like a home base now where I can actually I'm like, dude, I'm in the happiest place in my life right now. I'm super focused on my shit. I have plans. I've cut all the garbage out of my life. I'm still wearing a lot of hats and carrying a lot of plates, but those plates are slowly getting that fucking empty, and I can get like these, it's pretty good shit.
It's amazing what you can do when you just minimize stress. If you know what I mean? If you have stress, like obviously there's the stress in the life that you have no control over. That is just part of being a human being in this world. But if you have unnecessary stress in your life, get rid of it. It will do you wonders, no matter what it might be and what attachment you might think you have to it. Just if it's unnecessarily stressful, remove it, and you can take on more responsibility because you have more time to focus and energy to focus on whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, bro, it's so true. And for me personally, it was just letting my pride go and like getting rid of that and being like, okay, I can see now that my fucking lion's mane's gone,
Oh yeah, for sure. It's amazing how pride will, ruin you and make you everything that you are.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, hang on, dude. After the say my goodbyes here, we'll say goodbye off the air here.
For sure.
So, well, again, I hope you all enjoyed this episode number 179 already. Jesus, with Mr. Sully Reynolds here, and again, you can find him on Instagrams and all the social feeds. Yeah, dude.
Oh, when is this airing?
This Friday, it's gonna go out. So that's like November or something.
Can I give two shows a shout out?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Chaka Glass and Esh Glass are having a show at the Higher Concept Gallery in Portland, Maine, and Pubs Glass, Dan Longden, Matt 2000, and Glass by Hunter are having Boros Sabbath at Stoke in Connecticut. I suggest either of those, whatever one you check out. Make sure you go enjoy it. It'll be a great time.
Hell yeah. Yeah, dude, Esh is actually like kind of sort of a second generation of me artist-wise, because like I taught my brother, I get my brother like his foundation, and Eli and my brother are like best friends. And
dude, Ash is such a good dude.
Yeah, he is, right? When I had my studio, he was like one of the first guys that came in to like rent some space, and I had so much going on in my life that the studio just fell apart. I mean, that was like, it was ridiculous, but he was a part of that, whole experience.
Yeah, he and Chaka were shopmates for a while. I don't know if they still are. I believe they still are, but I guess there was something going on. Not for public knowledge. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know they're both up in Portland.
Yeah, and I'll take those links. I'll put links in the show notes and stuff for it too, and plug them on the Instagrams and what have you.
Awesome, man. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, fucking A. Well, yeah. So there you go. So 179. If you listen to this on Friday, happy Friday. If not, happy whatever the hell day of the week it is. And we will see you on the next episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show. Y'all take it easy. Peace. This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by The Flow magazine. Since its inception, the focus of The Flow has been to provide a bond among members of the lampworking community. In every issue, you can enjoy great content with the hottest artists and cutting-edge techniques using the latest industry products. These features, along with the continuation of our Women in Glass edition, Glasscraft Emerging Artist Awards, inspiring gallery showcases, dynamic general interest articles, as well as health and safety information, make The Flow the leading international lampworking journal. For more information or to subscribe to The Flow, go to theflowmagazine.com. That's theflowmagazine.com.
You're listening